Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
I currently am a professor in the School of Accounting at Florida Atlantic University. I've been with FAU since 2001, and during my time there, I've had many roles. In addition to serving as a professor, I've had the opportunity to lead the accounting honors program, serve as the faculty athletics director, where I interacted with our student athletes, our coaches, our administration in developing a stronger environment for our students. I was the director of the School of Accounting, and I am also currently in the role of president of the Faculty Senate, which by virtue of this position, I am a trustee on the FAU Board of Trustees. So a lot of things going on in my career, even though I've been at FAU for 21 years, I think every 3 or 4 years I've redefined myself. So that's who I am today. And my goal today is to tell a story about how I got here with identifying my passions, my people, and my persistence through what I think is a very challenging journey.
Well, we are excited you're with us today, and we have your slides pulled up, so take it away. The floor is all yours.
Okay, so after I selected my topic, I rearranged it a little bit. As I was putting together the slides, it seemed that it made sense to talk about passion first, then people, and then persistence. So in developing this presentation, I did a lot of self-reflection. So if we can continue to the next slide. And I said, okay, so let's understand what these three things are. What is passion, what is people, and what is persistence? And I am going to challenge each of you on the call today to think about your passion, your people, and how you have persisted. So starting with passion. Passion is any powerful or compelling emotion or feeling such as love or hate. Many times when we're in an environment like this, a women's leadership summit, we think about our professional passions, but our passions can also be personal passions outside the workplace, in the community, in our families, just in our own lives. So when I go through the slides today, I'm going to talk about my passions in many different areas. Then next, who are our people? So next slide. Our people is defined as the entire body of persons who constitute a community, tribe, nation, or other group. And when I think about my people have changed over my life, and they're certainly not the same people in my professional passions as my personal passions. And some of my people have been helpful to me as I pursue my passions, and some not so much. So I'm going to challenge you to think about your people and how they are helping you to achieve what you're passionate about. And then finally, persistence. So if we look at persistence, it's a firm or obstinate continuance in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. And when I was looking for a graphic for persistence, the most common graphic is rolling a ball up a hill. And I just wasn't drawn to that graphic. When I saw this one, a lady chasing after her passions with a net. Persistence doesn't have to feel like rolling a ball up the hill. It can be as fun as, chasing butterflies. We just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even if it becomes challenging. So I do think that persistence is something that's very important, and I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it. So as I put in the title, persistence in all caps, because persistence is something that I think has really gotten me to where I am today, and I want to emphasize that aspect of it. So if we go to the next slide, it's been a long time since I have presented in a forum like this. I teach all the time. I'm in meetings all the time, but it's really an honor for me today. And when I got this call or the email asking me if I'd be open to presenting, I was really a little shocked. Like, why me? Why am I the person that can help other women in pursuing their passions? And so I did some research and I found this quote that inspired me from Rachel Gillett at Fast Company. And she says, if you want someone to remember your message in a presentation, an article, or a report, tell them a story. So my goal today is to tell you my story, not because I think I'm anything special, but because I find that when I tell my story, it inspires others. It helps people find a way to think about their journey and ways that they relate to the journey that I've had. It's really even strange to me to think that I'm way closer to the end of my career than the beginning of my career. And I think about if I had known some of the things that I'm sharing with you today early in my career, things may have gone a little differently for me. But that's not to say I'm not completely thrilled with how things turned out. So let's go into my story. So I like to tell people that are a little bit younger than me, I wasn't born a middle-aged white woman with a PhD. That was not what how my life started out. So when people look at me, they don't, especially like my students and younger professionals, they don't see the journey. And so I also was not born a wife, a mother, a professor, a founder, and many other things. So when I think about my journey, how did I get here? Like, what were the early years and what shaped me to become the woman that I am today? So if we could just go to the next slide. In the early years, what is my story? So I was born in 1965 in Huntsville, Alabama. And my parents were Shelley and Patricia Drake. And I put their year of birth here because it's kind of important. My mom was 20 years old when I was born, and she married my dad when she was 15 years old. So I was born to two very young rural two very young parents that lived in a rural community. And that really shaped my upbringing. I had two brothers, Marlon and Brent. Marlon's 3 years younger than me and Brent's 5 years younger than me. So they were very close growing up. I was the only girl, and I didn't have that same kind of bond with my brothers. And I grew up in the country on a farm in a fundamental Christian home. And early on in my life, things felt kind of normal. I didn't know really anything outside of my little farm life and my little school. I remember early on that I was tagged as a smart kid because I did really well on standardized tests and I made good grades and I did my homework. And so I was tagged as a smart kid growing up. In fact, one of the two smartest kids in the school because we were such a small community. In the early 70s, we had a family crisis. My dad's health was horrible. They thought he was going to die. My parents separated for a while. I spent a short time in foster care. Things were not good. And I remember that turmoil in my life very, very vividly. And then finally my parents reunified and we moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. But when we arrived in Florida, it didn't take long for a lot of dysfunction and a lot of socioeconomic challenges. And I learned really quick that I wasn't the two top smartest kids in the school once I got into a more diverse environment. So that move happened when I was 13 years old, and it really shaped my life, because that was, of all the moves that I made in my life, the most challenging. I go from a small farm town girl to living in what seemed to me like a great metropolis, and I didn't have friends. I didn't fit in. I talked like a country girl. It was pretty horrific. But so I look back on this and I say, okay, what was my passion? Who were my people? And how did I persist? And so if we go to the next slide, we can break that down. So I think my passion at that point in my life was education, because I thought I was a smart kid. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be liked and loved. I remember with the challenges going on in my family, I didn't always feel that they liked or loved me. And I also wanted to develop a strong work ethic. And why were these things going on? And I want to focus on that work ethic piece, because the first job I ever had in my life was shelling beans for my grandmother, and she paid me by the pound. So in order for me to get paid a lot of money, I had to work really hard. And as I got better at that job, she taught me new jobs, and I developed this really strong work ethic. I saw my parents, quite honestly, not succeeding professionally and not doing a great job at being parents. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't love me and they weren't doing the best that they could, but the environment that I grew up in, it was pretty challenging. And I was fortunate to have grandparents, extended family, teachers, and friends that helped me develop a better view of the person I was becoming. And later on, my parents kind of got their acts together, and now everything's, really fine. But those early years were challenging and shaped the way that I viewed myself. So how did I persist? Well, I copped out on this one. I really did, because I have no idea. I really have no idea. If I attribute it to one thing, I think, grit. If you've studied grit at all, I think I was fortunate to be born with some. And then I was also held to really high standards with my family and my teachers. And so having that aspect of my life, it was very, very helpful. I went down a really bad path in high school. I barely graduated. My friends were having a negative impact on me doing well with education and work ethic, but doing a really good job with me feeling liked and fitting in, because I found a group of friends that accepted anyone, really, as long as you partied and had a good time. So those were the early years, my passion, my people, and how I persisted. So then going on to the next phase of my life, which I label the transition. So I went to senior prom. I graduated in 1983, and I went to prom with my current husband. So we got married when I was 19 years old, and no one thought that was a good idea. They thought I would never graduate college and the marriage wouldn't last. And my work history, after I moved to Florida and didn't have my job shelling beans anymore, I became a babysitter. I bagged groceries at a grocery store, became a cashier there, moved on to be a teller, and then an accounting clerk. And my academic achievements, I finished up my associate's degree at a community college, a bachelor's, a master's of accounting, and then finally a PhD in Georgia in 1997. So all those naysayers who thought the marriage wouldn't last and that I wouldn't graduate, I had this passion to prove everyone wrong and to succeed. And not only did I graduate college, the first person in my family to graduate college, I was able to continue and get a PhD. So what was my passion? Who were my people? And how did I persist? So if we go to the next slide, we can start to break that part down. So my passion was education and succeeding. Once I met my husband, Ray, he wasn't about putting up with my nonsense. No smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no crazy. He was a good guy. He was the person that I needed in my life to be my rock. It wasn't that he demanded anything of me, but the kind of woman that he wanted in his life was the woman I wanted to be. And he helped me become that woman just through support, inspiration, and being my rock. And I'll go on to say, my husband got a GED. He didn't officially graduate from high school. He got a GED and he never went to college. But he supported me in everything that I wanted to do professionally and educationally. He moved around the country for me. So he was my person. Like, he was really, really my rock, my support person. And I also had teachers and coworkers and classmates. My parents began to develop a more positive role in my life. My grandparents continued. I reflect back on my grandparents. My grandmother was 36 when I was born, and my grandfather was 38. So crazy to have such young grandparents. But they used to play games with me, and they would cheat so that I could win. They wanted me to have that feeling of winning. And then how did I persist? I really started listening to people who believed in me. And by listening to people who believed in me, I started to believe in myself. And I also had a fear of repeating unhealthy patterns that I had observed in my parents and other extended family members. So it was just this passion to succeed and become educated. And my dad, he instilled something in me, education is something that no one can ever take away from you. So even though he didn't go to college and had some professional challenges, he instilled that passion for me. I also reflect back on a teacher that I had in high school, chemistry teacher. Don't remember a thing about chemistry, but I remember him saying, we set our priorities and we live with them. And that was a life-changing moment when I internalized that. We set our priorities and then we live with the consequences of those priorities. So then going on to more recent years, if we go to the next slide, we have adulting. So my first job, I was a professor in New York City. Then I moved to Florida Atlantic in 2001. And about 4 years ago, I founded a nonprofit to support college students who come from foster care and homelessness. And so this nonprofit is my passion outside of work. In my personal history, my personal history, I am still married to my husband. We adopted 2 children. You see Brandon with his skateboard. He's a phenomenal skateboard. And then Caleb with his surfboard. Wonderful young men. And I am very fortunate to have the opportunity to be their mom. And then I also survived breast cancer. And that was a crazy time for me. And that's a time where I really started to rethink my people, my passions, and my priorities, because I realized some of the professional priorities or passions were getting in the way of my health and my personal passions. So if we go to the next slide, where we break this down in my adulting years, I'm able to put my passion into one thing: solving complicated problems that matter to me. Who are my people? I now put myself as my number one person. Through thick and thin, I can always count on myself. I have my husband that's still very important, my sons who are important, and then all the same groups of people, although the names and faces have changed. My family, my friends, co-workers, students, it's just the labels are there, but the names and faces have changed. And so how did I persist through all this? Because it was not easy. You know, imposter syndrome big time here. I'm a country girl from Alabama whose family never went to college. And here I am in New York City being an accounting professor. How did I do it? Well, one day at a time, one failure at a time, and having people who believed in me, and then also developing an understanding of myself. And so from the, ending my very, very long college career, I am able to understand myself and know that my passion is solving complicated problems that matter to me, and knowing who the people are that I can count on to support me in that. So if we go to the next slide, we're gonna, what is my story today? And I think I've mentioned most of these things to you. And I wasn't born these things. I was born a daughter. That was it. All these other things came to me, opportunities came to me, because I always put myself in a position to walk through a door that seemed interesting. The two things that I haven't talked to you about is I love golf and yoga. Yoga has changed my life. So those are the two things that I want to add that bring a lot to me. So now looking forward, we go to the next slide. If we look forward, what is my passion? My passion is to be healthy professionally, personally, mind, body, spirit, be healthy. And what does that mean? I think about it and I define it all the time. What does it mean for me to be healthy? Well, who are my people that are helping me there? Well, as I said, I'm my number one person. I learned that no matter what, I can count on myself, and you can count on yourself. My bestie, Nicole, we've known each other only for 3 years, but she is my person that challenges me every single day to be healthy, to have balance in my life, to eat healthy foods, to exercise, to do yoga and be mentally and emotionally healthy. And then my husband, Ray, who has always been by my side and always been supportive of whatever passion that I have. And then I've learned, there are friends, family, colleagues that are part of this circle, but they're not the main players in my circle.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or a networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.